Hey guys, we're going to be going back to Dark Visions number 6. This time we're going to be doing the budget clears on the final 3 bosses of Anima, Diablos, and Ashura. If you want to see my high score videos where I get a perfect score on all the bosses, either look at the previous videos that I posted, or if I remember, I'll pin a link in the comments so you can get to the high score videos. But this is going to be the budget videos for those of you that can't get, the perfect scores, or if you're having trouble beating the bosses at all. Here's a cheaper way to do them. So we're going to start with Anima, who is a physical fight, weak to ice and something, ice and dark. We're going to go with an ice team, and this is going to be a really budget team. Now, I'm leaving a slot open, or technically 2 or 3 slots open, because Kenny Crow and Charlotte can be definitely replaced by, whatever. But this is just the basic core units that you can do to kill the fight, and then you would add whatever units to get a better score that you can fit. So this is going to be our team. So Kenny Crow is here literally just to evade provoke the single. Now, if you're using Vaughn, Zahn, Riku, etc., you could drop him and consolidate this slot. But he is going to be doing this, and I gave him 1,000 needles. This is only important if you push a threshold. If you don't push a threshold until you kill the boss, you don't even need Mirage. But just in case you're pushing a threshold, the boss will use an AoE physical attack. But we're not going to push a threshold anyway, so he is just an evade provoker. Tifa is going to be our damage dealer. She's the only Neo Visions we're going to use in these clears. She was given free. Hopefully you have her. If not, use what you do have. For her base form, we just gave her Call of the Wild. That just makes filling the LB a little bit easier. But because we're using Meteor Strike, it's technically not even that important. We'll just go ahead and remove it because we're not even going to need it. And for the shift form, we're going with again cheap gear. We gave her an ice weapon, the Hoarfrost Dagger. If you don't have this, give her any ice weapon you can. If you're using something like Mastermind Zond and Spreading Imbues, then obviously you don't need any kind of elemental weapon whatsoever. But this is the gear. Very cheap, no STMRs. The only card we're using is the free Vision card from the anniversary. Hopefully your Tifa is geared better, but this one should be enough technically. We've got 170 killer and 160 LB damage. Her attack's a little bit low because we're using really cheap gear, but it's whatever. We're going to use Sacred Shield Charlotte as our cover tank. That way we don't need to gear the rest of the team in resistance. So she's going to be at 100 fire and holy resist. If you don't want to use a cover tank, you can use a resistance buff and gear to hit 100% fire and holy on the entire team. But that's all we're going to need. She's also going to be chaining on turn 2 with our last well for that 100-point chain score. And once again, if you're using more chainers in your team, you don't need to use her for that. And she's going to be our Ice in Peril, because Lastwell is going to be kind of busy. We're using Lastwell as a chainer. We're not really using his utility kit. He is just here because he's an ice chainer. And that's pretty much it. He's just going to be chaining ice with... he's going to do Aurora Ray for the chain count score on turn 2. And then on turn 3, we're going to chain with Kadaj for our real damage. So here's his gear, here's his setup. We've got 100 Reaper Killer, very cheap gear. If you can gear it better, by all means do so. And then Kadaj will be our secondary DPS. He was the free unit from a while back. We're using a Ice Katana because we're not using Imbues. Other than that, he's just got, cheap gear, free or TMR and below, no STMRs. He's got 150 Reaper Killer, and that's going to be our team. This last slot could be whatever you want. Like I said, you could drop Kenny and put a better unit in. You could drop Charlotte. Mix and match the team as you choose, but here we go. And as long as you're winning by turn 3 or so, you don't need high resistance and you don't need any kind of Mirage. So Kenny Crow has nothing to do. He's just going to guard. Lastwell will use Fatal Bloom to power up his modifiers and complete Awakening. Charlotte is going to cover and use her cooldown so she can double cast next turn. Kadaj is going to use both his cooldowns to get his power-ups ready. And Tifa is going to go ahead and not Meteor Drive. We're going to, if I could ever click, Tifa is going to Meteor Strike twice to fill her LB gauge, and then we're going to use Hot Fever to boost her attack power. Alright. So some attacks, fire and light element. They're magical. We're avoiding them. We're covering them with Charlotte. If you're not covering, just use resistances on your team. Alright, so Laswell is going to go ahead, and we're just going to double here. 30 slashes, if I could find it. The AR skill. Here it is. And then Charlotte will double cast her AR skill as well. We're actually going to cast the light element AR, so we deal even less damage, because I don't want to deal much damage if possible. Now, the only reason for this is to get that 100-point chain score. If you're chaining with a bunch of chainers, you actually can skip this step if you're getting 100 points from your chains. Kadaj will go ahead and use his skills. Kenny has nothing to do. Tifa is going to shift. And Tifa is going to be our good breaker for the defense break. We're going to Magnus, and then we're going to Crashing Waves. We're actually going to Magnus, and we're going to use Meteor Crusher once, and then Crashing Waves. Make sure you don't use Concentration, because we don't want her imbued with water. So I took off the Call of the Wild on Tifa, and it looks like we actually might be a little bit short on filling her LB. No, she got it. Okay, so taking off the Call of the Wild was a little risky. I probably shouldn't have done that. Yeah, leave Call of the Wild on to make sure her LB fills up guaranteed. Okay, so the boss buffed a little bit. If you're using a Perfect Dispel, this would be a great time to use it, because I'm not, whatever. Now we're going to go ahead and use Freezing Punishment to do a 100% Ice in Peril on the boss. It's only 100%. Again, if you're using better units, 120 would be a lot stronger, or 130 if you're using Elena or something. Anyway, we're going to use triple Mirror of Equity with our Laswell, and then triple Thunderous Crash with Kadaj, and then Tifa will cap. And this should be, this should kill the boss. It's not going to be a perfect score, but it should definitely kill him. Yeah, it killed him. But perfect score is not going to happen with this much of a budget team. 618 million, But we got a 100-point chain score on turn 2. We took no damage. We did a lot of weakness attacks. We had no deaths. We got a perfect score in everything except for damage dealt, where we only got 12 out of 30. Fill in those empty slots, add more DPS, and you can get a lot closer to that damage cap. So there is Anima. Now let me go ahead and reform the team for Diablos. I'll see you guys in a moment. Alright guys, next we're going to go to Diablos, who is probably, in my opinion, the hardest boss of this Dark Visions. We're going to be doing a magical light element team. And this is going to be the team we're going to be using. So we're not using any Neo Visions, we're using only old units, we're using cheap gear, so I hope this works. We're going to find out. We're going to be using, well, first of all, we're going to be using a team that is using at least 20% to ice and at least 30% to dark for all elements, or for all team members. So we're going to be using an 80% ice buff and a 70% dark buff. So with that, and then 20 and 30 from gear, we're immune to ice and dark for the entire team. The boss also does blind and stop. We're going to be buffing stop from Lakshmi. I'll point that out when we get there. And then the blind immunity is going to be coming from Selfie. If you don't have like Selfie or something, you can just equip the units that need blind immunity. You can just give them blind immunity. So Selfie is going to be a chainer. We're going to be imbued by Cecil for Holy Element for the physical chainers. Her gear is 125 Demon and 2700 Magic. Because I'm using cheap gear, I'm not using STMRs and all. The stats are not going to be super impressive, but budget run. Ace is going to be our probably second highest DPS on this team. He is a pretty good demon killer. We're going to be imbuing him with Cecil, like I mentioned, and then his gear is 275 Demon. He does have really high natural demon killer, so it makes it quite easy to gear him. 3200 Magic, so there we go. If you have Rem, she's great as well, but I'm using Ace. He's gonna chain Chaos Wave Awakened with Selfie. Edgar is going to be on, he is on Lakshmi, which gives us the stop protection buff. And I should mention that Selfie is on Anima for the 70% dark resist buff. That's where our buffs are coming from. But Edgar is going to be a breaker on the turn before killing, so he's got lots of auto limit equipped. He's gonna Like I said, he's going to do the stop immunity from Lakshmi, and he's dual wielding, and we're going to be doing Stardust Ray frames with the Gusty attack, just to help build the chain score with our Cecil. Kimono Fina is going to be the primary DPS here. Now, I've never had a really good chance to showcase her after she got her latents, so I'm going to take this moment to show that she's a pretty good Holy Element mage when you can power her up, and because this boss is okay to go to turn 4, it's going to be a good fight for her. Now, full disclaimer, I am using her STMR. This is the only STMR in the team we're using, because I wanted Kimono Fina to really showcase how good she can be. We're going to use her STMR. It's just, the only thing. Otherwise, I'd have to use her bad bow. But there we go. So here's the gear she's using. She's using some double hand Demon Killer, and she's got 145 Demon Killer and 3600 Magic. Magitech Warrior Terra is going to be here as a regular Chaos Wave chainer with our Kimono Fina. She changed Chaos Wave, the old version, not the Awakened version. And we're going to use Magitech Warrior Terra. Now, Magitech Warrior Terra's Chaos Wave frames are very terrible modifiers, so her damage is going to be almost entirely irrelevant. But we're going to use her anyway. She's got 2500 Magic. Oh, she's also going to be our 120 Imperil for Holy Element. And she's got 200 Demon Killer. It's unfortunate because she gears really easily. I just wish her damage was higher. But we're using her. And then Cecil, he is not covering, but he is going to be our Provoke tank. We're not using passive Provoke. We're going to use his active Provoke. And he's going to chain Stardust Ray on the final turn. And he's wearing Death Immunity. And he's going to be our Ice Resist buff. He's going to buff Ice Resist on turn 1. It's somewhere in there. By 80%. Okay, let's go for it. Of course, you should swap out any units on this team that you have better versions for, like, Kuja, Aerith, Elena, etc., etc. But we're going budget mode. So we're going to start off with a stop immunity. That's only if the boss does Hurricane on turn 3. That'll give us immunity. Ace is going to start powering up his Chaos Wave Awaken frames. On this first turn, Selfie is going to give us that 70% Dark Resist buff from Anima. Kimono Fina on this first turn does nothing. Terra is just going to cast Saint Riot. That's an incrementing Imperil. It'll start getting more powerful. By turn 4, it'll be max power. And then Cecil is going to Light Wall for the Ice Resist, and then we're going to Provoke, because he's our Evasion Provoker for these single target physicals. And then some ice and dark attacks that we're immune to. Whatever. Alright. We can just reload and refresh Edgar for the stop immunity. Ace, on this next turn, can unlock an even higher tier of skills. Selfie is going to triple here. We're going to ready... that gives herself a magic boost. We're going to boost for the blind immunity, like I mentioned, and then we're going to aura to fill Edgar's LB. It's now good. Kimono Fina is going to start getting ready for her burst turn. We're just going to double. We're going to do Profusion of Lotuses and Dawn, so we get her ready for later. Terra on this turn can just guard, and Cecil on this turn is going to do, let's see, defense and spirit buff, and we'll go into the dark. More attacks. Cecil's Provoke lasts for 4 turns, I believe. Okay, Power of the Dark. So the boss is not going to use Stop this attempt because he did Power of the Dark. Power of Ice is when he does Stop. So we're going to go ahead and LB with Edgar. That'll break his defense for later. We're going to LB with Terra as well. That's going to get her quad cast ready for next turn. Kimono Fina is going to triple here. We're going to do Consecutive Bullseye, Arrow of Light, and Arrowhead. Those are all modifier boost for her burst to next turn. Selfie this turn doesn't have anything to do. We can just guard her. Ace is going to triple. We're going to Peta, Attack Hand, and Break Sight. Now make sure you do it in that order. That's going to give himself a Demon Killer buff for next turn. And Cecil on this turn can do Let's see, we're doing the the light imbue for the party. And we're going to do an attack and magic buff, and just an MP refill in case anyone needs it. Looks like no one does, but we had nothing else to cast anyway, so whatever. Okay, so we're going to get ready for the kill next turn. Bunch of attacks, we don't really care. And it's important you don't want to push the boss low in health, because if you do, he starts doing death and stuff, so you want to keep him pretty high on health until you're ready to kill him. Alright, so at this point, the boss is broken from Edgar. The 120 in peril is up from Magitek Warrior Terra. So we're now going to quad cast. We're going to quad cast just Chaos Wave frames. Kimono Fina is now going to quad cast Phosphorescent Light, which is fully powered up. Cecil is going to... We're just going to double because Edgar can't triple. So we're going to double Moonlight, and then we'll just into the light. Edgar is going to use that Gusty attack to help build the chain. And then Ace is now fully powered up, so we're going to exit twice. And then Jackpot. And then Selfie will Booyaka. Now, because for whatever reason, Magitek Warrior Terra's Chaos Wave frames lag me so bad. So I'm going to just disable spell effects for this, so it doesn't really lag. Okay, so we're going to start by sending just the AoE Chaos Wave chainers, because they stop when the boss gets low in health. Now we're going to send everyone else and jump into that chain and let it keep going, because these are all single target chainers. So there we go. And so I don't forget it for later, we'll go ahead and put this back on because it's nice and pretty. Most units it's fine. And we did 547 million. Yeah, you know, we're using ancient units, so it's not going to be super impressive damage there. If you want the big boy damage, you got to bring the Neovisions or something like Kuja. So anyway, we got a perfect score other than damage. We got 11k damage out of 30. It's not terrible. It worked. You know, old units, cheap gear. We only used one STMR in the entire team, and it was really kind of not even that important. Anyway, there is Diablos. Let me go ahead and go to the next fight. See you in a moment. Alright guys, next up is going to be the Ashura fight, and again we're only using Neovision's Tifa because she was free, and this is going to be a cheap team. This is going to be the team. So we're going to be using Ashura Axstar, and you can replace these with any unit you want. Ashura Axstar is a decent human killer. We've got him with double hand. Mine's not like really invested in, so his stats are pretty terrible, but whatever. And he's using cheap gear, you know, mostly free gear. But he does have 225 human killer. His attack power is, like I said, terrible. We're using really cheap gear. Kadaj, free unit again. We're using a human killer and just some non-elemental weapons. He's got decent attack power, and he's got 280 human killer. Thanks to the little general. Never thought this would be used, did you? But we're using it. AC Cloud, you know, bringing him off the bench. He's going to be capping with his LB. He's a really good human killer, so we've got that going for us. 300 human killer and 200 LB damage, basically. Yeah, no STMRs. Looking good. Luna Freya is going to be just buffing on turns 1 and 2. We gave her dual cast, and she's going to chain Flood on turn 3 for the kill turn. And the Flood will help build the chain, etc., etc. Kenny Crow is going to be our evasion provoker. He's got full evasion, and he's got the 1,000 needles for doing Mirage on turn 1 and 2. And he's on Black Dragon for Cursed, not that one, for Cursed Current. He's going to chain Flood on turn 3 with dual wield. Make sure he's dual wielding. Tifa, base form is irrelevant. We're not using it. Shift form, she's using the free card, and we're using LB damage and non-elemental weapons. We are doing a water team, by the way. I mean, it should be obvious at this point. Tifa, 275 LB damage and 300 human killer, and this is with no STMRs, so pretty good. And that's it. That's our team. Okay, let's try Ashura. Ashura is a fairly easy fight compared to some of the other ones, mostly because we can use Tifa, and she doesn't really do anything on the first 2 turns. So we're gonna go ahead and 1,000 needles with Kenny. Luna Freya will do Benevolence. This is just for a stat buff. And we're going to do Light of Salvation. That's mostly for the regeneration because I didn't stat pot my Ashura Axstar, so he needs more mana. So we're going to Face of Carnage and then start stacking his Mirror of Equity. Kadaj is going to use his cooldowns. Cloud, on this first turn, just does nothing, he just guards. And Tifa is going to cast, we're going to use Wave Spike, that boosts the damage of Water Element. That's important to use for later. And we're going to double cast Meteor Strike to start filling her LB gauge a little bit. Okay. Now you don't want to push this boss below, I don't actually know what her threshold is, but if you push her below a threshold, she does a double AoE. And then you'll need multiple Mirage, but as long as you don't push thresholds until the kill turn, one Mirage is totally fine. Alright, so Kenny's going to go ahead and Mirage again. We're going to use Axstar to triple. We're going to Absolute, and then we're going to Mirror of Equity, the other one, the true one. That's going to boost his modifiers. Let's see, Luna Freya is going to imbue water, and we'll do Trident of the Oracle for the mana regen. Again, this is mostly for Axstar. As you see, he is running dry really badly because I never potted his stats. I got him too late to matter. We're going to power up Kadaj. We're going to use Cloud's better self-attack buff. Tifa is going to shift. And then we're going to Concentration, Magnus, and we're going to use her as our 80% defense break with Crashing Waves. Wait for all the hits to stop. I don't want to damage the boss. Okay. And then Luna Freya will do her AoE Imbue Water and mana regen so Axstar can chain next turn. Okay. This should be an easy kill. We're not going to cap damage, of course, but we should do good damage here. I hope. Guess we're about to find out once Kenny calms down. Alright, so Luna Freya is going to go ahead and dual cast Flood for us. This is primarily just to build the chain because we need that chain score. We're going to Cursed Count, or Current. We're going to cap. Cloud's going to LB as well. Feels good using Cloud again. I really like that character. Thunderous Crash 3 times, and then we're going to Ashura's Mirror of Equity 3 times. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and start the Flutters. Cloud. Wait for the chain to build a little bit and drop Tifa, who does 99.9% of the damage here. And 101 chain points. That is just enough to get that chain score. Perfection. Okay, so how'd our damage do? Out of curiosity. 900 million. Yeah, you know, when you're doing a budget team, minimal Neovisions, or basically no Neovisions except the free one, and then cheap gear. That's to be expected. We did get 15 out of 30, which is still pretty good. Took no damage, got off perfect on all the rest. So there you go. There is the budget methods to do the previous 3 bosses. We used, you know, pretty much no STMRs. I did cheat a little bit on Komodo Athena just because I wanted to use her to her full potential at least once before she rides the bench for eternity. Yeah, Anima, Diablos, and Ashura. Got them all with really old units, really cheap gear. Okay. See you guys next month for Dark Visions number 7 when it comes out. Later.